Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back in time, way back to ancient Egypt, where the sun sets over the endless desert, casting long shadows from structures so massive they've stood for thousands of years. You're about to explore the pyramids, those iconic tombs that have fascinated people for centuries. But don't worry, you probably won't survive this journey through time, or at least your sense of modern life might not. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with your location and local time. It's always cool to see where everyone's tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin your journey in ancient Egypt, a land where the Nile River breathes life into the desert, and the pharaohs rule as gods on earth. Long before the pyramids rose from the sands, the early kings of Egypt were buried in tombs that, while impressive for their time, were mere shadows of what was to come. These early royal tombs, known as mastabas, were flat-roofed rectangular structures made of mud bricks with walls that sloped gently inward. Imagine standing before one. It's not towering like the pyramids you know, but it's solid, imposing in its own way, like a fortress guarding the entrance to the afterlife. The air around you is dry and hot, the sun beating down relentlessly. But inside these tombs, it's cooler, almost eerily still. The scent of incense lingers, and as your eyes adjust to the dim light, you see walls adorned with colorful hieroglyphs, stories of the pharaohs. Life, his victories, his divine right to rule all, etched in symbols that look like a game of charades played by stick figures. These mastabas were more than just burial places. They were statements of power, visible reminders that the pharaoh was no ordinary man. He was a god, and his tomb was a gateway to eternity. The ancient Egyptians believed that death was not the end, but a transition to another life, one where the pharaoh would continue to reign, provided his body and soul were properly preserved. That's why they went to such lengths to mummify the body, wrapping it in linen, anointing it with oils, and placing it in a sarcophagus deep within the tomb. They thought that if the body wasn't preserved, the soul known as the Ka wouldn't recognize it and would be lost forever, wandering aimlessly in the afterlife. It's a bit like losing your keys in the house. You know they're there somewhere, but without them, you're stuck. But there's more to these tombs than meets the eye. As you explore further, you notice features that puzzle even modern scholars. Take the false doors, for example. These were carved into the walls, complete with intricate details, but they didn't lead anywhere. Were they meant for the soul to pass through a spiritual exit from the tomb, or were they simply symbolic a way to honor the dead? Historians still argue about their true purpose, and honestly, it's one of those debates that might never be settled. It's like trying to figure out why your cat stares at nothing. Sometimes the answer is just beyond us. Despite their significance, these early tombs had their limitations. For one, they were vulnerable to tomb robbers who were less interested in the afterlife and more interested in the gold and treasures buried with the pharaoh. You can almost hear the pharaohs grumbling from beyond the grave. I spent my life building this, and you're just going to loot it. But jokes aside, security was a real concern. The mastabas, with their straightforward design, were relatively easy to break into. It was like leaving your front door unlocked in a neighborhood known for burglaries. Moreover, as the pharaoh's power grew, So did their ambitions for the afterlife. They wanted something grander, something that would not only protect their bodies and treasures, but also reflect their divine status for all eternity. These mastabas were like the starter homes of the afterlife, modest functional, but with plenty of room for expansion, and expand they did. You're walking through the sun-scorched sands of ancient Egypt, the horizon shimmering with heat. Before you looms another mastaba, its mud brick walls weathered but sturdy, rising like a low squat sentinel against the endless desert. These early tombs might not dazzle you, like the pyramids will later, but don't be fooled. They were the height of sophistication back in the day. Picture this: a rectangular structure, maybe 20 feet high, with those inward sloping walls that make it look like it's hunching over guarding its secrets. The top is flat, not pointed, and there's no fancy entrance, just a simple shaft or stairway plunging underground to where the pharaoh rests. It's modest, sure, but for a king who's also a god, it's a pretty decent starter home in the afterlife. As you step closer, you can almost smell the history baked into these bricks, the faint whiff of dust and dried Nile mud mixed with the memory of incense burned centuries ago. Inside the tomb is a different world. The air is cool and heavy, and the walls light up with hieroglyphs painted in bold reds, blues, and yellows. These aren't just decorations. There the pharaohs resume bragging about battles won and temples built. You squint at the carvings, birds, eyes reeds, and what looks like a guy with a jackal head. It's like the ancient Egyptians invented emojis and you're stuck decoding them without a manual. Now, let's poke around a bit more. You notice a strange feature: a false door carved into the wall, framed with stone and painted to look real, but it's a total fake. You can't walk through it, yet it's there, staring at you. Scholars still bicker about this one. Some say it's a spiritual portal, letting the Ka slip in and out like a VIP at an exclusive club. Others argue it's just symbolic, a nod to the afterlife without any practical use. You decide it's your journey, after all. Either way, it's a quirky touch, like putting a cardboard cutout of a window in your basement. These mastabas weren't perfect, though. You can see why they'd need an upgrade. For one, they were loot magnets, tomb robbers. Think ancient Indiana Jones, but less heroic, could dig in pretty easily, snagging gold jewels and anything shiny. The pharaohs must have been fuming in the afterlife, watching their stuff get pawned off. Plus, as Egypt grew richer and more powerful, these tombs started feeling a bit small time. You're a god king, after all. Shouldn't your eternal crib scream divine a little louder? That's where the ambition kicks in. As you wander the mastaba's perimeter, kicking up sand with every step, you can sense the shift coming. These early tombs were practice runs, experiments in mud and stone. They taught the Egyptians how to build big, how to plan for eternity. And soon, someone's going to take that knowledge and run with it straight up to the sky. His name's Imhotep, and in the next section, you'll see how he turns these humble mastabas into the blueprint for the pyramids. For now, though, soak in the quiet grandeur of these early tombs. They're the roots of something massive, and you're right here at the start. In the next section, you'll meet the architect who took tomb building to new heights, literally. His name was Imhotep, and he was about to change the course of Egyptian history with a design so revolutionary it would inspire awe for millennia. But for now, let's linger a little longer in the world of mastabas, where the seeds of the pyramids were first planted. As you stand before one of these early tombs, you can almost feel the weight of history pressing down on you. The air is thick with the scent of antiquity, and the silence is profound, broken only by the occasional whisper of the wind. It's a reminder that even in a land as timeless as Egypt, change was inevitable. The pharaohs were not content to rest in simple tombs. They wanted to reach for the heavens to build monuments that would stand as testaments to their power long after their names were forgotten. And so, the stage was set for the pyramids. But before we move on, take a moment to appreciate these early efforts. They might seem primitive compared to what came later, but for their time, they were marvels of engineering and artistry. The ancient Egyptians were just getting started, and what they achieved next would leave the world in awe. Imagine yourself in Memphis, the pulsating heart of ancient Egypt, around 2650 BCE. The third dynasty is in full swing, and the city buzzes with energy. The air carries the warm aroma of bread, baking in clay ovens, mingling with the earthy scent of the nearby Nile and the sharp clink of copper tools striking stone. Pharaoh Djoser reigns supreme, a ruler whose ambition is about to catapult him into legend. And at his side stands Imhotep Amon, so brilliant he's practically a walking, talking marvel of the ancient world. Imhotep isn't just a vizier. He's a one-man renaissance. Architect, physician, astronomer, priestess, the kind of guy who'd juggle scalpels, star charts, and building plans before breakfast. In today's world, he'd be that overachiever with a corner office, a Nobel Prize, and a viral TikTok account. But here in the dusty sprawl of Memphis, he's Pharaoh Djoser's most trusted advisor, wielding influence second only to the God King himself. Now Djoser has handed him a challenge: design a tomb that doesn't just house a pharaoh, but screams divinity for eternity. No pressure, right? Up until this point, Egyptian pharaohs have been tucked away in mastabas, those squat rectangular tombs made of mud brick or stone. They're sturdy, practical, and about as exciting as a tax form. Picture being a divine ruler destined to stride among the gods, only to spend eternity in what looks like a glorified storage shed. Imhotep isn't having it. He's got a vision that's bigger, bolder, and frankly, a little bonkers for its time. He wants to take Djoser's tomb and literally elevate its stacking mastabas into a structure that climbs toward the sky like a stairway to the stars. Let's zoom in on Imhotep at work. He's hunched over a papyrus scroll in a dimly lit room, the flicker of oil lamps dancing across his intense features. His hands are smudged with ink, his tunic dusted with desert sand. He's not just drafting plans, he's rewriting history. His idea stacks 6 mastabas, each one smaller than the one below, creating a stepped pyramid that towers over the landscape. It's a radical leap from tradition, a high-stakes gamble that could either cement his genius or bury it under a pile of rubble. Failure isn't an option when your boss is a pharaoh who thinks he's a god. The action shifts to Saqqara, a sprawling necropolis just beyond Memphis. The site is a chaotic symphony of sweat and stone. Thousands of workers swarm the desert, dragging limestone blocks that weigh more than a herd of oxen. The sun blazes overhead, turning the sand into a sizzling mirage, but the crew presses on their tools, flashing in the light. This isn't just construction, it's a revolution carved in stone. As the step pyramid rises tier by tier, it's as if the earth itself is holding its breath, witnessing the birth of something extraordinary. Of course, a project this ambitious comes with headaches. Moving those massive blocks is a logistical nightmare. Each one tips the scales at several tons, and there's no handy crane or forklift in sight. Imhotep, ever the innovator, cooks up a system of ramps and levers. Think ancient Egypt's version of a Rube Goldberg machine. It's clever, but it's also risky. One slip, and the whole thing could come crashing down like a house of cards in a sandstorm. Then there's the stability issue. As the pyramid grows taller, the upper tiers threaten to squash the chambers below. Imhotep doesn't flinch. He beefs up the foundation and introduces stone columns, some of the world's first, blending brute strength with a touch of elegance. These aren't just supports, they're a preview of architectural brilliance that will echo through the ages. By the time the step pyramid stands complete, its 6 jagged tiers piercing the sky, it's a jaw-dropper. This isn't just a Tombit's a power move. Egypt is flexing, showing the world what it's capable of. Before Imhotep Mastabas squatted humbly across the desert. Now this towering marvel sets a new standard, a prototype for the sleek pyramids of Giza that will follow centuries later. It's the architectural equivalent of going from a flip phone to a smartphone. Imhotep just changed the game, but he's not done dazzling us. Imhotep infuses the pyramid with meaning, turning it into more than a pile of stones. Each tier symbolizes a step in Djoser's ascent to the gods, a literal ladder to the afterlife. Inside, a maze of chambers and tunnels brims with treasures, gold, food, furniture like a VIP suite for the hereafter. It's practical and poetic, a perfect blend of form and function that reflects Imhotep's multifaceted mind. The step pyramid's completion isn't the end of Imhotep's story, it's just the beginning of his legend. After his death, Egyptians don't just remember him, they worship him. He's deified as a god of wisdom and medicine, his name carved into temples and whispered in reverence. Standing before his creation at Saqqara, the wind whipping through its shadow, you feel the magnitude of what he pulled off. This isn't just a monument. It's proof that one person's vision can reshape a civilization. Yet for all his fame, Imhotep remains a mystery. Was he truly the first to dream up the pyramid? Or did he riff on earlier ideas? Scholars still bicker over it. But the evidence is clear. The step pyramid was a turning point. It lit the fuse for Egypt's pyramid-building frenzy, inspiring giants like the Great Pyramid of Khufu. As the sun sets over Saqqara, painting the stone in hues of gold, you can almost hear the echoes of Imhotep's world, the scrape of chisels, the grunts of workers, the quiet resolve of a man who dared to stack stones toward the sky. Sneferus Pyramid, Experiments, a journey of trial and error. Imagine yourself in ancient Egypt around 2600 BCE, standing on a sun-scorched plain as the clatter of chisels and the shouts of workers fill the air. Dust swirls around you, and in the distance, a massive structure rises, half-finished, ambitious, and maybe a little unstable. This is the world of Pharaoh Sneferu, a ruler of the 4th dynasty who didn't just build pyramids, he redefined them. Sneferu wasn't content with the stepped pyramids of his predecessors. He wanted something smoother, grander, a true testament to his divine power. But getting there, that's a story of daring experiments, spectacular flops, and a stubborn refusal to give up. Let's dive into Sneferu's quest to perfect the pyramid shape, one trial-and-error masterpiece at a time. The Maiden Pyramid, a bold first step and stumble. Sneferu's first crack at pyramid perfection takes us to Maiden, about 60 miles south of modern Cairo. The plan starts simple: build a step pyramid, like the one Djoser made famous at Saqqara. But Sneferus got bigger dreams. Why settle for steps when you can have sleek, smooth sides? His architects devise a plan to transform the step structure into a true pyramid by filling in the gaps with limestone casing. It's a brilliant idea on paper. In practice, not so much. As the workers pile on the stones, the pyramid grows taller, but trouble brews beneath the surface. The foundation isn't designed for this kind of weight, and the outer layers start to slip. Before long, the structure groans, cracks, and partially collapses, leaving a strange, truncated tower surrounded by a field of rubble. Today, the Medum Pyramid looks like a giant, stepped-on-it part ruin, part relic. Sneferu could have called it quits right there, but this pharaoh isn't one to back down from a challenge. Medum's failure isn't the end, it's just the beginning. The bent pyramid, a mid-build pivot. Next stop, Dashur, a new site for a new vision. Sneferu's second project, the bent pyramid, is where he really swings for the fences. This time, the goal is a true pyramid from the start with smooth sides sloping at a steep 54 degrees. The workers haul massive blocks into place, the structure climbing higher and higher until it doesn't. Halfway up the pyramid, starts to complain. Cracks spiderweb through the stone, and the whole thing threatens to come crashing down like Medum 2.0. Cue the ancient Egyptian equivalent of an emergency meeting. The architects huddle sweat beading on their brows and make a snap decision change the angle. They lower it to a safer 43 degrees, sacrificing height for stability. The result, a pyramid that bends in the middle, like it couldn't decide whether to be daring or cautious. It's not the prettiest sight imaging a building with a midlife crisis, but it stands. The bent pyramid is a living lesson in adaptation, a snapshot of Sneferu's team learning on the fly. And while it's not perfect, it's a step closer to the dream. The red pyramid, third time's the charm. By now, Sneferus probably got a few gray hairs, but he's not done yet. For his third attempt, he stays in Dashur and builds the red pyramid named for the reddish limestone that glows in the desert sun. This time, his team has cracked the code. They start with a shallower 43-degree angle from the base, learning from the bent pyramid's wobble. The foundation is stronger, the blocks are better placed, and the whole operation runs like a well-oiled chariot. The red pyramid rises smoothly, its sides unbroken by steps or bends. When it's finished, it's not just a pyramid, it's the pyramid, the first true one in history. At 341 feet tall, it's a marvel of engineering, a testament to Sneferu's refusal to settle. Standing before it, you can almost feel the triumph radiating from the stone. This is no accident. It's the payoff of years of experimentation, a monument that says, "We figured it out." The man behind the monuments. So who is this Sneferu guy anyway? He's not just a pharaoh with a thing for big buildings, he's a pioneer. History sometimes calls him the pyramid builder, and for good reason. 3 major pyramids in one reign is no small feat. But what sets him apart is his willingness to fail. Each collapse, each crack is a lesson carved in stone, and Sneferu's team takes notes. They learn about angles, foundations, and the limits of limestone knowledge that will echo through the ages. And it's not just Sneferu dreaming big. Thousands of workers, skilled laborers, not slaves, bring his vision to life. They're fed bread and beer, housed in nearby villages, and driven by pride in their craft. Picture the scene: masons shaping blocks, surveyors squinting at the horizon, overseers barking orders. It's a bustling hive of activity, all fueled by Sneferu's relentless ambition. A legacy that shapes the future. Sneferu's experiments don't just end with the red pyramid, they set the stage for what's to come. His son Khufu will take these hard-won lessons and build the Great Pyramid at Giza, a wonder of the world that dwarfs even Sneferus' achievements. But without Meidum's rubble, the bent pyramid's kink, and the red pyramid's success, Khufu's masterpiece might never have happened. Sneferu isn't just building pyramids, he's building a blueprint for eternity. As you gaze at the red pyramid's smooth slopes, the desert stretching endlessly around it, you can't help but marvel at the journey. Sneferu's story is one of grit and ingenuity, of daring to dream and learning from mistakes. His pyramids flawed, quirky, and finally perfect stand as monuments to a simple truth. Greatness doesn't come easy. It's forged through trial and error, block by stubborn block. You stand in awe before the Great Pyramid, a monument to Khufu's grand vision. The sun blazes overhead, casting sharp shadows across the Giza Plateau, where this colossal structure rises from the sands like a mountain sculpted by human hands. Its limestone casing, though largely stripped away over millennia, once reflected the sunlight with such brilliance that it must have seemed like a beacon of divine power. Stretching 481 feet into the sky and covering a base area of 13 acres, the pyramid dwarfs everything around it, a silent giant that has witnessed the rise and fall of empires. The air shimmers with heat, and the faint hum of the desert wind carries whispers of a time when this was the heart of an ambitious pharaoh's dream. What kind of man could conceive such a marvel? What drove Khufu to pour his kingdom's wealth, labor, and ingenuity into a single enduring testament to his reign? The mind of a pharaoh. Khufu, the second ruler of Egypt's fourth dynasty, reigned over 4,500 years ago during the Old Kingdom, a golden age of pyramid building and centralized power. Known to the Greeks as Cheops, he was a figure shrouded in mystery, with few direct records surviving to reveal his personality. Yet, the Great Pyramid itself speaks volumes about his ambition. To Khufu, this was no mere tomb, it was a bridge to eternity. Ancient Egyptians believed that death was not an end, but a transition to the afterlife, where the pharaoh, as a divine intermediary between gods and mortals, would ascend to join the celestial realm. The pyramid's grandeur was a physical manifestation of this belief, a vessel to ensure Khufu's immortality and a monument to his godlike status. But Khufu's ambition went beyond spiritual concerns. As a ruler, he wielded absolute authority, commanding resources and labor on a scale that few could match. The pyramid was a political statement as much as a religious one, a symbol of his ability to unify and direct his people toward a singular, awe-inspiring goal. Imagine the audacity of man who looked out over his fertile Nile Valley and decided that his legacy would be etched in stone, visible for miles, enduring for millennia. Was it hubris, faith, or a bit of both? Whatever the mix, Khufu's vision transformed the landscape of Giza and the course of history. A monumental undertaking. Building the Great Pyramid was an endeavor that pushed the boundaries of human capability. Spanning roughly 20 years, coinciding with Khufu's reignite, required a staggering 2.3 million limestone and granite blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons. How did they do it? The answer lies in a blend of ingenuity, organization, and sheer determination. Contrary to the old myth of enslaved workers toiling under the lash, modern archaeology suggests that the pyramid was constructed by a workforce of skilled laborers, farmers, and craftsmen. During the annual flooding of the Nile, when agricultural work paused, tens of thousands of workers, perhaps as many as 20,000 haulers to 30,000 at a time, were mobilized. These were not slaves, but paid laborers housed in nearby villages, fed with bread and beer, and motivated by a sense of national pride or religious duty. Think of it as a massive public works project, a kind of ancient Egyptian moonshot that rallied the kingdom's collective strength. The materials themselves tell a story of resourcefulness. Most of the pyramid's core was built from local limestone quarried just south of Giza. Workers used copper chisels and stone hammers to carve the blocks, then transported them to the site on wooden sledges, lubricated with water to reduce friction across the sand. For the outer casing, finer Tura limestone was brought from across the Nile, its smooth white surface, giving the pyramid its original dazzling finish. The massive granite slabs lining the inner chambers, some weighing up to 80 tons, came from Aswan, over 500 miles away, likely floated down the river on barges during the flood season. Picture the scene: a flotilla of boats laden with stone, cutting through the water under the watchful eye of overseers, all part of a logistical ballet orchestrated with precision. The construction techniques remain a marvel. Workers built ramps possibly straight zigzagging or encircling the pyramid to haul blocks upward as the structure grew. These ramps were dismantled as the pyramid neared completion, leaving behind a mystery that still sparks debate among scholars. The alignment of the pyramid is another testament to Egyptian expertise. Its sides are oriented to the cardinal directions with an accuracy within a fraction of a degree, likely achieved using astronomical observations of the stars. Standing at its base, you can help but marvel at the math and muscle that went into stacking those blocks, each one fitted so tightly that a sheet of paper wouldn't slip between them. The cost of ambition. Such a project didn't come cheap. The Great Pyramid consumed vast amounts of Egypt's wealth and manpower, a fact that may have stirred resentment among Khufu's subjects. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing 2,000 years after Khufu's time, claimed that the pharaoh forced his people into labor and depleted the treasury, earning him a reputation as a tyrant. While Herodotus's account is likely exaggerated, colored by Greek biases and oral tradition, it hints at the strain such an undertaking placed on society. Feeding and housing the workforce, quarrying and transporting materials, and maintaining order required a level of organization that only a strong, centralized state could muster. Khufu's ambition in this sense was a double-edged sword, a triumph of human will, but one that leaned heavily on the backs of his people. Yet the pyramid also brought benefits. It spurred advancements in engineering, mathematics, and astronomy skills that rippled through Egyptian society. The workers' villages, complete with bakeries and breweries, suggest a level of care for the labor force, and the project may have fostered a sense of unity and purpose. Was it worth it? To Khufu, gazing out from his palace at the rising silhouette of his tomb, the answer was surely yes. A legacy in stone. Today, the Great Pyramid stands as the last of the seven wonders of the ancient world. Its companions, like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon lost to time. For over 4,500 years, it has endured sandstorms, conquests, and the curiosity of explorers who tunneled into its depths or stripped its casing for other projects. Its scale and mystery have inspired poets, artists, and scientists alike, from the medieval Arab travelers who dubbed it a mountain of stone to modern engineers who puzzle over its construction. Khufu's ambition achieved what he sought: immortality. His name lives on, tied forever to this monument. But the pyramid's legacy goes deeper. It's a mirror reflecting humanity's capacity to dream big, to bend nature to our will, and to leave something behind that outlasts us. Walking its perimeter, You feel the weight of that ambition, not just Khufu's, but that of every worker who lifted a block, every planner who measured an angle, every Egyptian who believed in the vision. It's a reminder that greatness comes at a cost, but also that it can echo across centuries. So as you stand before the Great Pyramid, squinting against the sun, let it sink in. This is more than stone and sand. It's a story of a man who reached for the stars, a people who made it possible, and a world that still wonders at what they built. You stand on the Giza Plateau, where the ancient sands stretch out beneath the towering forms of the Giza necropolis. Having already encountered the majesty of Khufu's Great Pyramid, your journey now turns to the pyramids of Khafre and Menkaure, the remaining members of this iconic trio. These monuments, though less colossal than Khufu's, are no less remarkable, each bearing the imprint of its creator's vision and the ingenuity of a civilization at its peak. As you explore these structures, you will uncover their stories, their construction, and their enduring significance within the vast necropolis that has captivated the world for millennia. Khafre's Pyramid, a monument of deception and divinity. Khafre, the son of Khufu, was a pharaoh determined to leave his mark on the Giza skyline. His pyramid, the second largest of the trio, rises 471 feet into the desert sky, its silhouette dominating the plateau. At first glance, you might mistake it for the tallest, a clever trick of perspective. Khafre chose a higher elevation for his monument, making it appear to rival his father's in stature. Originally sheathed in smooth Tura limestone, it once gleamed like a mirror under the Egyptian sun. Today, only a cap of this casing remains at the apex, a faded echo of its ancient splendor. The pyramid's base sprawls across 11 acres, its construction a marvel of logistics and precision. Over 3 million stone blocks each, weighing several tons, were quarried, transported, and meticulously placed to create this enduring edifice. The sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, a testament to the Egyptians' advanced understanding of astronomy and geometry. Beyond the pyramid itself, Khafre's vision extended to a broader complex. Adjacent lies his mortuary temple, where rituals once honored his eternal spirit, linked by a grand causeway to the valley temple below. This causeway, once roofed and adorned with reliefs, served as a sacred path for the pharaoh's funerary procession. At the end of this causeway stands the Great Sphinx, a colossal guardian carved from a single limestone block. With the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh, believed to be Khafre himself, it stretches 240 feet long and rises 66 feet high. Its enigmatic gaze fixed eastward toward the rising sun suggests a connection to solar worship and the afterlife. The Sphinx was more than a statue. It symbolized Khafre's divine power and protected the necropolis from spiritual threats. As you stand before it, you can almost feel the weight of its silent vigil, unbroken for over 4,500 years. Menkaure's pyramid, small in size, grand in spirit. Further along the plateau, the pyramid of Menkaure Khafre's successor and Khufu's grandson comes into view. At 213 feet, it is the smallest of Giza's trio, less than half the height of Khufu's monument. Yet its modest scale belies its distinction. Menkaure's pyramid stands apart for its use of granite, a material ethan the limestone of its predecessors. The lower courses are clad in red granite from Aswan, hauled over 500 miles to Giza, a feat that speaks to the pharaoh's resources and determination. Why granite? Some speculate it was a deliberate choice to set Menkaure's tomb apart, a mark of individuality in the shadow of his forebears. Others suggest it reflects a shift in the Old Kingdom's economy or priorities. Whatever the reason, the granite lends the pyramid a striking appearance, its deep hue contrasting with the surrounding limestone structures. Inside the burial chamber once held a basalt sarcophagus discovered in the 19th century, but lost to the sea during transport, a haunting loss of history. The pyramid's mortuary temple, also featuring granite, showcases the skill of Egyptian artisans who mastered this unforgiving stone. Though smaller, Menkaur's pyramid required the same precision and effort as its larger counterparts. Standing before it, you sense a quiet resilience, a monument that, while less imposing, carries its own weight in the story of Giza. It's a reminder that greatness isn't always measured in size, but in the intent and craftsmanship behind it. Engineering a legacy. The construction of these pyramids remains one of history's greatest enigmas. The stones, some weighing up to 80 tons, were quarried from nearby sites, or distant Aswan, then moved using sledges, rollers, and possibly boats during the Nile's flood season. How the Egyptians achieved such precision, leveling bases to within an inch and aligning sides with the stars continues to spark debate. Simple tools like plumb bobs and sighting rods likely played a role. But the scale of the operation suggests a sophisticated blend of engineering and organization. The workforce was no less impressive. Far from the enslaved masses of popular myth, recent evidence reveals a community of skilled laborers and seasonal workers, tens of thousands strong. They lived in settlements near the plateau, sustained by bakeries, breweries, and medical. Korean entire society mobilized to build these eternal homes. The coordination required to feed, house, and direct this labor force underscores the administrative genius of the Fourth Dynasty. A cosmic design step back, and the Giza necropolis reveals a grander purpose. The pyramids of Khufu Khafre and Menkaure are not scattered haphazardly. Their alignment mirrors the stars of Orion's belt, linked in Egyptian mythology to Osiris, the god of the afterlife. This celestial map was no accident. It embodied the belief that the pharaohs would ascend to the heavens, joining the gods in eternal life. The pyramids, sloping sides, evoking the sun's rays, were designed to guide their spirits skyward, while temples and causeways facilitated the rituals of transition. Religiously, these structures were resurrection machines. The pyramid texts found in Khufu's tomb offer spells for the journey through the underworld, a tradition likely shared by Khafre and Menkaure, even if their pyramids lack such inscriptions. The entire necropolis was a sacred landscape, ensuring the pharaoh's immortality and maintaining cosmic order. The enduring trio, the Giza necropolis, represents the pinnacle of pyramid building in ancient Egypt. After Menkaure, the practice waned. Later pyramids grew smaller, less elaborate, perhaps due to economic pressures or evolving beliefs. Yet Giza's trio has defied time, standing for over 4,500 years through earthquakes, invasions, and erosion. They draw millions to marvel at their mystery, a testament to their creator's ambition. As you gaze at Khafre's pyramid, its sphinx watching over the horizon, and Menkaure's granite-clad tomb, you feel the pulse of a civilization that prized the eternal above all else. These monuments complete Giza's stunning trio, each a chapter in a story of human achievement. The sun dips low, bathing them in gold, and you're left with a sense of awe, a connection to the ancient Egyptians who dared to build for forever. The workforce, uncovering the lives of pyramid builders. Picture this: it's a scorching day on the Giza Plateau. the sun glaring down like it's auditioning for the role of most annoying overseer. The air buzzes with the rhythmic clink of chisels, the creak of ropes pulling massive limestone blocks, and the occasional shout of "Move it. Hemiunu wants this done by sundown." This isn't just a construction site, it's a thriving hub of human effort ingenuity, and dare I say, a surprising amount of organization. The pyramids didn't rise from the desert sands by magic or divine intervention. Sorry, pharaohs. They were built by a skilled, dedicated workforce whose lives were far more interesting and comfortable than you might expect. Let's meet the real MVPs of ancient Egypt and uncover how they turned royal ego trips into enduring wonders. Busting the slave myth. Who were these workers? For starters, let's ditch the tired old image of slaves staggering under whips, dragging stones and chains. That's a cinematic fantasy, not history. The pyramid builders were a mix of skilled laborers, seasonal workers, and craftsmen. Think of them as the ancient equivalent of a unionized construction crew. Far from being enslaved, these folks were paid, fed, and even patched up when the job got rough. Estimates suggest that tens of thousands of workers, perhaps 20,000 to 30,000 at a time, were involved in building the Great Pyramid alone, drawn from villages across Egypt. These weren't random peasants plucked from the fields either. The workforce included stonemasons who could carve a block to perfection, quarrymen who wrestled stone from the earth, and laborers who hauled it all into place. Many of these laborers were farmers roped in during the Nile's flood season, when their fields turned into temporary lakes. It was a clever system. The pharaoh got his muscle, and the farmers got a paycheck, well, more like a bread and beer voucher during their off-season. Not a bad deal, right? Living the pyramid life, more than just hard labor. So where did these workers crash after a long day of pyramid making? Not in some dusty tent city, that's for sure. Archaeologists have uncovered entire villages built just for them near the pyramid sites. Think company towns, ancient Egypt style. These settlements were made of mud brick houses, complete with communal bakeries, breweries, and granaries. We're talking proper infrastructure here, not a slapdash camp. The workers slept on wooden beds, ate at tables, and lived in a setup that was a cut above what many Egyptians had back home. And the food. Oh, they ate like champs. Excavations reveal a diet packed with bread, beer, fish. And get this meat. Cattle, sheep, and goats were slaughtered in droves to keep the crew fueled, a luxury when meat was a rare treat for most Egyptians. The bread was baked fresh daily in massive ovens, and the beer flowed like it was happy hour every hour, about 4 to 5 liters per worker per day. That's not just hydration, that's a party in a clay jug. Some researchers call it the pyramid builder's buffet, and honestly, it sounds better than my last takeout order. But it wasn't all feasting and hauling stones. These workers had access to medical care that would make your jaw drop. Skeletons from the sites show evidence of surgeries like a leg amputation that healed successfully, and treatments for broken bones, back pain, and even the odd scorpion sting. There were doctors on site setting splints and stitching up cuts, ensuring the workforce stayed in fighting shape. In a world where healthcare often meant hoping for the best, this was next level stuff. Organized chaos. The pyramid building machine. Building. A pyramid wasn't just about brute strength. It was a logistical masterpiece. The workforce was split into teams, or files, of about 200 workers, each then subdivided into smaller groups of 20 for specific tasks. Some quarried stone, others hauled it, and a select few positioned it with precision that still baffles engineers today. It was like a giant assembly line humming along under the watchful eyes of overseers, the ancient Egyptian version of project managers, probably just as stressed about deadlines. These teams had personality too. Graffiti scratched into the stones gives us their names: the drunkards of Menkar, the friends of Khufu Khufu's champions. You can almost hear the banter as they worked. Why drunkards bet we can stack more blocks than you by noon. It's a glimpse into a camaraderie that made the grueling work bearable, maybe even fun. At the top of the pyramid, pun intended, were the architects and high-ranking officials plotting the whole operation, while mid-level overseers kept the chaos in check. The coordination was mind-boggling. Millions of stones, some weighing up to 80 tons, shadi, to be quarried, transported, and placed just so. Supplies like food, water, and tools flowed in constantly tracked on ostraca pottery shards that served as ancient post-it notes. These scraps record everything from worker attendance to deliveries of grain, even the occasional grumble about late shipments. It's like peeking at a 4,500-year-old project management app, and it worked like a charm. Perks pay and the occasional strike. Let's talk perks, because these workers weren't slaving away for nothing. Sure, hauling stones in the desert sun was no picnic, but the pharaohs knew a happy crew was a productive one. Beyond the stellar food and medical care workers were paid in goods food rations, linen tools, sometimes even land. Money wasn't a thing, yet but a sack of grain or a new tunic was as good as gold. And if the rations ran low, these folks didn't mess around. There's evidence of worker strikes, strikes when supplies didn't show up on time. Imagine a gang of laborers downing their tools, crossing their arms, and saying, "No beer, no blocks." It's a rare peek at ancient labor rights, and it shows these workers knew their value. The pharaohs needed them as much as they needed the job, and that balance kept the whole operation humming. The bigger picture: society, economy, and legacy. The pyramid projects were more than just tombs. They were a societal juggernaut. Feeding and supplying tens of thousands of workers meant ramping up agriculture, herding, and trade on a massive scale. Thousands of animals were butchered, yearly grain fields were harvested to the max, and industries like tool making and pottery boomed. It was an economic engine, employing people from every corner of Egypt and giving them skills they could take home. Socially, it might have been a unifier. Picture farmers from the Delta sweating alongside craftsmen from Memphis, all working toward a shared goal. It's not hard to imagine a sense of pride swelling up. We built that, even if the pharaoh got all the credit. But it came at a cost. The resource drain was immense, and some historians argue it helped tip the old kingdom into decline. Go big or go home. Right, Egypt went big and paid the price. The human heart of the pyramids. Step back and look at the pyramids, and it's easy to see only the pharaoh's grandeur. But zoom in, and you'll find the real story. The bakers kneading dough at dawn, the masons perfecting each block, the laborers laughing over their beer rations. These weren't faceless drones. They were people skilled, organized, and vital. Their graffiti, their tools, their very bones tell us they mattered. The pyramids are their legacy as much as Khufu's or Menkar's. They turned a king's dream into stone, and their lives, surprisingly modern in their structure and spirit, remind us that even the greatest monuments are built by human hands. So next time you marvel at Giza, spare a thought for the crew who made it happen. They didn't just build pyramids. They built history. The workforce, uncovering the lives of pyramid builders. Picture this: it's a scorching day on the Giza Plateau, the sun glaring down like it's auditioning for the role of most annoying overseer. The air buzzes with the rhythmic clink of chisels, the creak of ropes pulling massive limestone blocks, and the occasional shout of "Move it, Hemiunu," wants this done by sundown. This isn't just a construction site, it's a thriving hub of human effort, ingenuity, and dare I say, a surprising amount of organization. The pyramids didn't rise from the desert sands by magic or divine intervention. Sorry, pharaohs. They were built by a skilled, dedicated workforce whose lives were far more interesting and comfortable than you might expect. Let's meet the real MVPs of ancient Egypt and uncover how they turned royal ego trips into enduring wonders, busting the slave myth. Who were these workers? For starters, let's ditch the tired old image of slaves staggering under whips, dragging stones and chains. That's a cinematic fantasy, not history. The pyramid builders were a mix of skilled laborers, seasonal workers, and craftsmen. Think of them as the ancient equivalent of a unionized construction crew. Far from being enslaved, these folks were paid, fed, and even patched up when the job got rough. Estimates suggest that tens of thousands of workers, perhaps 20,000 or to 30,000 at a time, were involved in building the Great Pyramid alone, drawn from villages across Egypt. These weren't random peasants plucked from the fields either. The workforce included stonemasons who could carve a block to perfection, quarrymen who wrestled stone from the earth, and laborers who hauled it all into place. Many of these laborers were farmers roped in during the Nile's flood season, when their fields turned into temporary lakes. It was a clever system. The pharaoh got his muscle, and the farmers got a paycheck, well, more like a bread and beer voucher during their off-season. Not a bad deal, right? Living the pyramid life, more than just hard labor. So where did these workers crash after a long day of pyramid making? Not in some dusty tent city, that's for sure. Archaeologists have uncovered entire villages built just for them near the pyramid sites. Think company towns, ancient Egypt style. These settlements were made of mud brick houses, complete with communal bakeries, breweries, and granaries. We're talking proper infrastructure here, not a slapdash camp. The workers slept on wooden beds, ate at tables, and lived in a setup that was a cut above what many Egyptians had back home. And the food? Oh, they ate like champs. Excavations reveal a diet packed with bread, beer, fish, and get this: meat. Cattle, sheep, and goats were slaughtered in droves to keep the crew fueled, a luxury when meat was a rare treat for most Egyptians. The bread was baked fresh daily in massive ovens, and the beer flowed like it was happy hour every hour, about 4 to 5 liters per worker per day. That's not just hydration. That's a party in a clay jug. Some researchers call it the Pyramid Builder's Buffet, and honestly, it sounds better than my last takeout order. But it wasn't all feasting and hauling stones. These workers had access to medical care that would make your jaw drop. Skeletons from the sites show evidence of surgeries like a leg amputation that healed successfully, and treatments for broken bones, back pain, and even the odd scorpion sting. There were doctors on site setting splints and stitching up cuts, ensuring the workforce stayed in fighting shape. In a world where healthcare often meant hoping for the best, this was next-level stuff. Organized chaos, the pyramid building machine. Building a pyramid wasn't just about brute strength. It was a logistical masterpiece. The workforce was split into teams or files of about 200 workers, each then subdivided into smaller groups of 20 for specific tasks. Some quarried stone, others hauled it, and a select few positioned it with precision that still baffles engineers today. It was like a giant assembly line humming along under the watchful eyes of overseers, the ancient Egyptian version of project managers, probably just as stressed about deadlines. These teams had personality too. Graffiti scratched into the stones gives us their names: the drunkards of Menkor, the friends of Khufu, Khufu's champions. You can almost hear the banter as they worked. Why drunkards? Bet we can stack more blocks than you by noon. It's a glimpse into a camaraderie that made the grueling work bearable, maybe even fun. At the top of the pyramid, pun intended, were the architects and high-ranking officials plotting the whole operation, while mid-level overseers kept the chaos in check. The coordination was mind-boggling. Millions of stones, some weighing up to 80 tons, had to be quarried, transported and placed just so. Supplies like food, water, and tools flowed in constantly tracked on ostraca pottery shards that served as ancient post-it notes. These scraps record everything from worker attendance to deliveries of grain, even the occasional grumble about late shipments. It's like peeking at a 4,500-year-old project management app, and it worked like a charm. Perks pay, and the occasional strike. Let's talk perks, because these workers weren't slaving away for nothing. Sure, hauling stones in the desert sun was no picnic, but the pharaohs knew a happy crew was a productive one. Beyond the stellar food and medical care workers were paid in goods, food rations, linen, tools, sometimes even land. Money wasn't a thing, yet but a sack of grain or a new tunic was as good as gold. And if the rations ran low, these folks didn't mess around. There's evidence of worker strikes, strikes, when supplies didn't show up on time. Imagine a gang of laborers downing their tools, crossing their arms, and saying, "No beer, no blocks." It's a rare peek at ancient labor rights, and it shows these workers knew their value. The pharaohs needed them as much as they needed the job, and that balance kept the whole operation humming. The bigger picture: society, economy, and legacy. The pyramid projects were more than just tombs. They were a societal juggernaut. Feeding and supplying tens of thousands of workers meant ramping up agriculture, herding, and trade on a massive scale. Thousands of animals were butchered. Yearly grain fields were harvested to the max, and industries like tool-making and pottery boomed. It was an economic engine, employing people from every corner of Egypt and giving them skills they could take home. Socially, it might have been a unifier. Picture farmers from the Delta sweating alongside craftsmen from Memphis, all working toward a shared goal. It's not hard to imagine a sense of pride swelling up. We built that, even if the pharaoh got all the credit. But it came at a cost. The resource drain was immense, and some historians argue it helped tip the old kingdom into decline. Go big or go home. Right? Egypt went big and paid the price. The human heart of the pyramids. Step back and look at the pyramids, and it's easy to see only the pharaoh's grandeur. But zoom in, and you'll find the real story. The bakers kneading dough at dawn, the masons perfecting each block, the laborers laughing over their beer rations. These weren't faceless drones. They were people skilled, organized, and vital. Their graffiti, their tools, their very bones tell us they mattered. The pyramids are their legacy, as much as Khufu's or Menkaur's. They turned a king's dream into stone, and their lives, surprisingly modern in their structure and spirit, remind us that even the greatest monuments are built by human hands. So next time you marvel at Giza, spare a thought for the crew who made it happen. They didn't just build pyramids, they built history, materials, and sources. The backbone of the pyramids. You stand at the foot of the Great Pyramid, its immense silhouette stretching into the sky. Each block before you, some rough, some polished to a mirror-like, sheen tells a story of its journey from quarry to monument. The pyramids of Egypt, enduring for over 4,500 years, owe their strength to more than just engineering. They're a testament to the materials sourced from the land and the ingenuity of the people who wielded them. Let's follow the trail of these stones and supplies, piecing together the puzzle of how the ancient Egyptians built wonders that still defy time. Limestone, the bedrock of the build. The pyramids. Primary building block is limestone, a rock as common in Egypt as sand in the desert. For the inner core, the Egyptians turned to a coarse local variety quarried directly from the Giza Plateau. These blocks, averaging 5 tons each, were the unsung heroes of the structure, rugged, reliable, and close at hand. Imagine the quarrymen at work, copper chisels striking stone clouds of dust rising as they hacked out the raw material for a pharaoh's tomb. It was gritty, backbreaking labor, but it kept the supply chain short and efficient. The outer casing, though, demanded something finer. Enter Tura limestone, a smooth white stone sourced from quarries 15 kilometers away on the east bank of the Nile. Prized for its fine grain and radiant hue, Tura limestone once cloaked the pyramids in a dazzling shell reflecting the sun like a desert mirage. Getting it to Giza was a feat of coordination. Workers hauled the stones on sledges across the sand, then loaded them onto barges to cross the Nile during the flood season, when the river swelled to accommodate the load. It was a dance with nature perfectly timed to deliver the pyramid's gleaming facade. Granite strengthened the shadows. While limestone formed the bulk, granite brought the muscle. This tough igneous rock was reserved for the pyramid's inner chambers, structural supports, and sarcophagi places where durability was non-negotiable. But granite didn't come easy. Its source lay in Aswan, over 800 kilometers south of Giza distance, that boggles the mind in an age without modern transport. Some of these blocks tipped the scales at 80 tons, making their journey an epic saga of its own. The Nile was the key. During the annual floods, workers floated these massive stones downstream on sturdy barges navigating currents and shallows with expert precision. Picture the scene: a flotilla of granite-laden boats gliding north, each block destined for immortality. Once at Giza, the stones were unloaded and dragged to the site, likely using sledges lubricated with water or rollers to ease the strain. For the pharaohs, granite wasn't just a material, it was a statement, ensuring their sacred spaces would endure as long as the gods themselves. Tools of the trade, simple, yet mighty. How do you shape stone without steel? The Egyptians had an answer: copper patience and a dash of creativity. Their toolkit was basic copper chisels, wooden mallets, and stone hammers, but it got the job done. For softer limestone, copper tools were sufficient, chipping away at the rock with steady rhythmic blows. The workers' hands grew tough, their methods refined through generations of practice. Granite, however, laughed at copper's softness. To conquer it, the Egyptians turned to abrasives like sand or emery, rubbing them against the stone to grind it down. They also drilled holes with copper-tipped tools, then inserted wooden wedges that, when soaked with water, expanded to split the rock. It was slow days, or even weeks, for a single block, but effective. Precision was paramount, and they achieved it with tools like plumb bobs for vertical checks levels for flatness, and squares for angles. The cubit, a standardized measure of about 52 centimeters, kept every block uniform, turning chaos into order. Mortar, the silent partner. The myth that pyramids were built without mortar isn't quite true. A thin layer of gypsum mortar, made by heating gypsum and mixing it with water, sat between the blocks. It wasn't the glue, the stone's weight held them in place, but it filled gaps and helped the structure settle. This simple concoction, born from Egypt's natural resources, added an extra layer of stability to the monumental puzzle. Beyond stone, the supply chain. Stone was the star, but the pyramids demanded more wood for sledges, copper for tools, rope for hauling, and food to fuel the workforce. Wood came from Lebanon's cedar forests, shipped across the Mediterranean and down the Nile. Copper was mined in the Sinai Peninsula, smelted into chisels and drills. Rope woven from papyrus or flax bound the operation together. Each supply had its own origin, its own journey, converging at Giza in a symphony of logistics. Feeding the workers was no less critical. Bred beer fish and meat flowed from Egypt's fertile fields, and rivers stored in granaries and baked in on-site ovens. Excavations reveal a support village, bakeries, breweries, even a hospital built to keep the machine running. This wasn't just construction. It was a self-sustaining ecosystem, orchestrated by a state that saw the pyramids as a divine mandate. The workforce hands, behind the stone, who moved these mountains of material, a mix of skilled artisans and seasonal laborers organized into teams with military precision. Quarrymen carved the stone transporters, hauled it, masons shaped and placed it, while overseers kept the chaos in check. During the agricultural off-season, farmers joined the ranks, their labor a tax to the pharaoh. The state fed them well. Archaeological evidence shows hearty diets and medical care, turning a conscripted force into a motivated one. The scale was staggering. The Great Pyramid alone required over 2 million blocks, each one quarried, moved, and set by human hands. It was a collective effort fueled by faith, duty, and the promise of eternal glory for their ruler. The cost of Pharaoh's ransom building a pyramid wasn't cheap. The stone alone demanded countless hours of labor, quarrying, transporting, placing. Add tools, food, and infrastructure, and the tally soars. In modern terms, it's a multi-billion-dollar project paid in ancient currency, like Deben, and sustained by Egypt's wealth. For the pharaohs, the expense was justified. A pyramid wasn't just a tomb, but a bridge to the afterlife and a monument to their reign. Tracing a stone's journey. Let's follow one blocka slab of Tura limestone. It begins in the quarry, chipped free by copper tools under the relentless sun. Workers load it onto a sledge, dragging it to the Nile's edge. A barge awaits, riding the floodwaters downstream to Giza. There, it's hauled up a ramp, positioned with precision, and locked into place, a single piece in a vast mosaic. Multiply that by millions, and you see the pyramid take shape stone by stone. The legacy of materials and mastery. As you gaze at the pyramid, its weathered blocks whisper tales of quarries, rivers, and hands long gone. The materials: limestone from Giza and Tura, granite from Aswan Gave, its strength. The tools: copper, wood, and grit gave it form. The logistics: rivers, sledges, and human will brought it to life. Together they created more than a structure. They forged a symbol of what humanity can achieve with vision and resolve. Religious significance, guiding pharaohs to the afterlife. Imagine standing at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, its colossal silhouette piercing the sky, a monument that has defied time for over 4,500 years. To the ancient Egyptians, this was no mere burial site. It was a sacred bridge between the earthly realm and the divine, a structure imbued with profound religious significance. The pyramids were designed to guide the pharaohs seen as living gods on their perilous journey to the afterlife, ensuring their eternal existence and the stability of the cosmos itself. A journey beyond death. In ancient Egyptian belief, death was not an ending, but a transformation. The soul was complex, comprising the Ka life force, the Ba personality, and the A chaos, the unified spirit that joined the gods. After death, the soul embarked on a treacherous journey through Duat, the underworld facing trials, and a final judgment where the heart was weighed against the feather of Mot, goddess of truth. A pure heart granted entry to the field of reeds, a paradise of eternal abundance. A heavy heart led to annihilation by Amit, the devourer. For pharaohs, this journey carried cosmic weight as earthly embodiments of Horus and descendants of Ra. Their successful passage to the afterlife, where they became Osiris, god of the dead, was essential to maintain Mot, the universal order. The pyramids were their ultimate safeguard, meticulously crafted to protect and propel them toward immortality. The pyramid's divine design. The pyramid's very shape was a religious symbol, its sloping sides converging to a point like the rays of the sun, a nod to Ra, the sun god. Pharaohs were sons of Ra, and this form was their celestial ladder guiding them upward to join the divine assembly. Some suggest the pyramid echoed the Benben, a mythical stone tied to creation, symbolizing the pharaoh's rebirth as the world itself began anew. Inside the pyramids, architecture mirrored the soul's path. The burial chamber, often buried deep within, represented Duat, while labyrinthine passages and false doors symbolized the obstacles encountered in the underworld. Every block and corridor was purposeful, a physical map for the pharaoh's spiritual voyage. Sacred words on stone. Step into the pyramid of Unas, and you'd find its walls alive with hieroglyphs, the pyramid texts. These ancient inscriptions, among the oldest religious writings known, were spells, prayers, and incantations etched to aid the pharaoh's ascent. O Ra, ferry me across to the horizon, one might plead, or I am Osiris risen and renewed, affirming his divine transformation. These texts were practical magic offering protection from underworld perils and instructions to pass guarded gates. They ensured the pharaoh's safe arrival among the gods, reinforcing his role in upholding Mot. Found in pyramids from the 5th dynasty onward, they reveal a faith where words held power to shape eternity. Rituals of eternity. Preparing a pharaoh for the afterlife was an art of devotion. Mummification, a 70-day ordeal, preserved the body so the Ka could recognize it. Priests extracted organs, storing them in canopic jars guarded by deities, then dried the body with natron and swathed it in linen-tucking amulets within for protection. The heart remained ready for judgment. The tomb brimmed with provisions, golden jewelry, furniture, food, and shabti, figuristini servants to labor in the afterlife. During burial, the opening of the mouth ceremony animated the mummy, restoring its senses. Priests then maintained daily offerings at the mortuary temple, feeding the Kai to keep the pharaoh's spirit strong and benevolent. The Great Pyramid's celestial compass. Consider the Great Pyramid of Khufu, a marvel of precision towering over Giza. Built with over 2 million blocks, its sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, a feat reflecting both engineering genius and religious intent. Its shafts, some believe, point to Orion linked to Osiris and Sirius, tied to Isis, guiding Khufu's soul to these imperishable stars, eternal in the night sky. This alignment wasn't decorative. It was a cosmic lifeline ensuring the pharaoh's place among the gods. The pyramid's grandeur underscored his divine status, a beacon for his journey beyond the mortal veil. A sacred ecosystem. The pyramid was no solitary monument, but the heart of a sprawling complex. The mortuary temple buzzed with priests offering sustenance to the pharaoh's K, while a causeway linked it to the valley temple where the body was prepared. This network, sustained by land endowments, was a living shrine perpetuating the pharaoh's cult for centuries. The complex mirrored Egypt's creation myths, with the pyramid as the primeval mound rising from chaos. It anchored the pharaoh in both worlds, his spirit influencing the living while dwelling among the gods, a dual role vital to cosmic harmony. An enduring legacy. The pyramids were more than stone. They were machines of faith guiding pharaohs through death to divinity. Their design texts and rituals wove a tapestry of belief where every detail served the afterlife's promise. For the Egyptians, the pharaoh's immortality was Egypt's heartbeat, sustaining order in a fragile world. Today, these structures whisper of a people who defied mortality, their vision etched in stone. The pyramids stand as testaments to a civilization that saw death as a doorway, and through it, they sent their kings to shine forever among the stars. This exploration delves into how the pyramids served as spiritual guides for pharaohs, from their symbolic architecture to the rituals and texts that ensured their safe passage to the afterlife. It's written to captivate and inform, painting a vivid picture of ancient Egyptian beliefs for readers of all backgrounds. Enjoy the journey through this ancient world. All right, let's dive into the political power angle of the pyramids, those colossal stone behemoths that screamed divine rule louder than a pharaoh's herald on a good day. You see the pyramids as towering symbols of the pharaoh's divine rule over Egypt, and you're absolutely right. But let's unpack that a bit more and explore how these structures were less about humble tomb making and more about flexing political muscle in a way that would make even the most ambitious modern dictator blush. The pyramids, political billboards of the ancient world picture. It's 2600 BCE, and you're a farmer trudging along the Nile, minding your own business, when suddenly, bam, there it is, a pyramid, gleaming white under the relentless Egyptian sun, its polished limestone casing reflecting Ra's rays like some divine spotlight. You can see it from miles away, a constant reminder that the guy in charge isn't just some bureaucrat with a fancy hat. He's a god king, and he's got the resources, manpower, and sheer audacity to build something this outrageous. That's political power in stone form. The pyramids weren't subtle. They were the ancient equivalent of a skyscraper, plastered with a ruler's face, except instead of steel and glass, they used millions of tons of limestone and granite to say, "Look at me, I'm untouchable." The sheer visibility of these monuments, especially giants, like the Great Pyramid of Khufu at Giza, originally 146.6 meters, 481 feet tall, ensured that every peasant noble and foreign trader knew who was boss. It was propaganda carved into the landscape, a message that didn't need words. The pharaoh's power was absolute, eternal, and backed by the gods. Divine right meets earthly might. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh wasn't just a king, he was a living deity. Horus, incarnate son of Ra, the whole divine package. This wasn't just religious fluff. It was the backbone of his political legitimacy. The pyramids were the ultimate expression of this divine right meets earthly control mashup. By building a structure that literally pointed to the heavens, thanks to their precise alignment with the cardinal points, the pharaoh showed he could bridge the mortal and the divine. His rule wasn't up for debate, it was ordained by the cosmos. But here's the kicker: that divine status didn't just float down from the sky. It had to be proven, and the pyramids were the proof. The bigger the pyramid, the clearer the message: am not just a god. I'm a god who gets stuff done. Take Khufu's Great Pyramid, 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons, stacked with precision that still baffles engineers today. Compare that to the slightly smaller pyramid of his son Khafre, or the downright modest one of Menkaure, and you see a pattern. The size and splendor of a pyramid directly reflected the pharaoh's political clout and the state's ability to back him up. A weak ruler didn't get a big pyramid, it was that simple. Commanding the masses. Labor as a power play. Let's talk about the muscle behind these monuments. Building a pyramid wasn't just a construction project. It was a political power move that showcased the pharaoh's control over Egypt's people. Forget the Hollywood myth of whip-cracking slave drivers. Recent digs at workers' villages near Giza reveal a different story. The pyramid builders were skilled laborers and seasonal farmers, not shackled captives. They lived in organized settlements, ate bread and meat provided by the state, and even got medical care. Archaeologists have found evidence of healed bones and surgical tools. This wasn't charity. It was a calculated display of authority. To pull this off, the pharaoh needed a system. Tens of thousands of workers' estimates suggest $20,000 to $30,000 for the Great Pyramid Hut to be fed, housed, and coordinated over decades. That meant granaries full of wheat bakeries, churning out loaves, and a bureaucracy to keep it all humming. The pharaoh's ability to mobilize this workforce wasn't just about logistics. It was about showing he could bend an entire society to his will. Every block dragged up those ramps was a vote of confidence in his rule, or more accurately, a reminder that dissent wasn't an option. And the numbers are staggering. The Great Pyramid took about 20 years to build, meaning roughly 100,000 tons of stone were quarried, transported, and placed each year. That's not a side hustle. That's a state throwing its full weight behind one man's legacy. The pharaoh, who could command that kind of effort, didn't just rule Egypt. He owned it. Resources and reach. The economic muscle. The pyramids didn't just demand labor. They sucked up resources like a divine vacuum cleaner. Limestone came from local quarries at Giza Shore, but the good stuff, granite for the inner chambers, was hauled from Aswan over 800 kilometers, 500 miles south. That's a logistical nightmare, even with the Nile's flood season making transport easier. Copper tools, wood for sledges, ropes, food for the workers. All of it had to be sourced, managed, and delivered. This wasn't a pharaoh dipping into his personal piggy bank. It was the entire Egyptian economy bending to his vision. This resource mastery was political gold. Controlling the quarries, the river trade, and the agricultural surplus meant the pharaoh held Egypt's economic reins. He could redirect the nation's wealth into a single jaw-dropping project, proving his dominance over both nature and man. And it wasn't just about spending, it was about showing he could spend. A pharaoh who could ship granite up the Nile and feed an army of workers wasn't just rich. He was untouchable. The ripple effects were massive, too. Quarrying and tool-making boomed. Farmers worked overtime to supply grain. Artisans crafted everything from chisels to bread ovens. The pyramid wasn't just a tomb, it was an economic engine, and the pharaoh was the driver. His ability to orchestrate this without the whole system collapsing was a political triumph in itself. Intimidation and unity, keeping the kingdom in line. The pyramids also doubled as a political stick to wave at anyone dumb enough to challenge the pharaoh. Rivals within Egypt, nobles with big ideas, or regional governors with too much ambition couldn't miss the message. You think you can take me? Look what I can do. Foreign powers got the memo too. A kingdom that could build something this massive wasn't one to mess with. The pyramids unified Egypt under the pharaoh's banner not just through awe, but through the sheer reality of his control. And let's not forget the psychological angle. For the average Egyptian, the pyramid was a constant presence, impossible to ignore, impossible to argue with. It tied the people to the pharaoh's divine narrative as a god, as eternal, and you're part of his grand plan. That kind of unity through intimidation kept the political machine purring, a lasting echo of power. The political power of the pyramids didn't fade when the last block was set. They stood as eternal markers of the pharaoh's rule, a middle finger to time itself. Even as Egypt's fortunes waxed and waned, the pyramids stayed put, reminding everyone's successors, invaders, tourists, that these god kings weren't playing around. Today, they still dominate the skyline, pulling in millions of gawkers and scholars alike. That's propaganda with staying power. So yeah, the pyramids were tombs, but they were so much more. They were political juggernauts, symbols of a pharaoh's ability to command people, resources, and the very order of the universe. Divine rule, sure. But it was the earthly power, the grit, the wealth, the sheer will that made those stones stack up to the sky. Picture this. You're standing on the edge of the Giza Plateau, the air thick with dust, and the rhythmic thud of stone against stone. Thousands of workers swarm the site, hauling massive limestone blocks under the blazing sun, their efforts orchestrated like a grand symphony. This isn't just a construction project, it's an economic powerhouse, a force that pulls in labor resources and wealth from across the Nile Valley. The pyramids of ancient Egypt, like the Great Pyramid of Giza, weren't merely tombs for pharaohs. They were catalysts that transformed the economy and workforce in ways that echoed through history. Let's unpack how these towering monuments shaped ancient Egypt, one block at a time. A workforce built on skill, not shackles. Who built the pyramids? If you're imagining endless rows of slaves cracking under whips, it's time to rethink that image. Modern archaeology has flipped the script. The pyramid builders were skilled workers, craftsmen, and seasonal laborers, not captives. These were farmers who swapped their plows for tools during the Nile's flood season, when the river turned fields into swamps. Far from being mistreated, they were well-fed, housed in purpose-built villages, and even given medical care. Think of it as an ancient workers' comp package. The scale was staggering. For the Great Pyramid, historians estimate 20,000 to 30,000 workers at a time, rotating through shifts over 2 decades. That's a workforce the size of a small city, organized into teams called files with specialized roles: quarrymen, haulers, carvers, and placers. Feeding, housing, and paying this army required an economy firing on all cylinders. It wasn't chaos, it was a carefully tuned operation, and keeping it running meant jobs and stability for thousands. Resources, the stone that moved a nation. The pyramids didn't rise from thin air. They were built from millions of stone blocks, each a logistical triumph. Most of the limestone came from local quarries on the Giza Plateau, but the finer white Tura limestone for the outer casing was hauled from 15 kilometers away across the Nile. The granite for inner chambers that traveled over 800 kilometers from Aswan. Moving these massive stones, some weighing as much as a pickup truck, was no small feat. It demanded a supply chain that stretched across Egypt, turning the Nile into a bustling artery of trade. During the flood season, when the river swelled, workers loaded stones onto barges and floated them to Giza. This seasonal dance with the Nile didn't just build pyramid. It sparked growth in quarry towns, fueled boat building, and created a network of commerce. Every block laid was a ripple in Egypt's economic pond, boosting industries far beyond the construction site, tools, and tech ingenuity in action. Building a pyramid took more than brute strength, it took brains. The Egyptians worked with copper chisels, wooden mallets, and stone hammers using sand as an abrasive to grind down tough granite. Precision tools, like plumb bobs, levels, and the cubit, a standardized measure, turned raw stone into perfect blocks. This wasn't just construction. It was engineering on a grand scale. The innovations didn't stop at the pyramid's edge. Skills sharpened on these projects, stone-cutting logistics measurements spilled over into other areas. A mason who mastered pyramid blocks could build a temple or a noble's tomb. The pyramids were a proving ground, training a workforce whose talents lifted Egypt's economy long after the last stone was set. Funding the vision, grain taxes, and economic flow. How do you pay for a pyramid? In ancient Egypt, cash wasn't king, grain was. The state funded these projects through taxes and tributes, collecting crops, livestock, and labor from every corner of the kingdom. Farmers handed over their harvests, which were stockpiled in granaries and doled out to workers as wages. It was a barter economy on a massive scale with the pyramid as its centerpiece. But this wasn't just a drain on resources, it was a spark. Villages near Giza thrived, supplying bread, beer, and tools to the workforce. Bakers churned out loaves, brewers filled vats, and healers tended to aches and breaks. The pyramid sucked in wealth, sure, but it also pumped life into local economies, creating a web of jobs and activity that stretched across Egypt. Agriculture balancing, bread and blocks. Farmers were the backbone of this system. When the Nile flooded and farming paused, they flocked to the pyramid sites, earning extra bread and beer for their families. It was a clever use of downtime. Farmers got work, and the state got muscle. But it was a delicate balance. Pulled too many hands from the fields, and food supplies could falter. The state had to juggle its appetite for stone with the need to keep Egypt fed. The evidence suggests they pulled it off. Workers' diets were hearty bred fish meat and vegetables with cattle bones piling up at the sites. Egypt's farms didn't just cope. They thrived, possibly even innovating to meet the demands of a growing workforce. The pyramids didn't starve the nation, they fed its ambition. Long-term gains. Tourism. Before tourism, the economic story doesn't end with construction. Once finished, the pyramids became instant icons, pulling in visitors from across the ancient world, pilgrims, traders, and the curious. Even back then, they were a draw with locals, likely spinning tales and selling keepsakes. This early tourism brought in wealth, turning Giza into a hub that paid dividends long after the pharaohs were gone. Unity in sweat. An economic and social bond building. A pyramid wasn't just about stone, it was about people. Workers from every region, Delta farmers, Nubian craftsmen, Sinai miners, labored together, forging a shared purpose. It was a national effort, a source of pride that shouted, Look what we can do. This unity wasn't just morale-boosting fluff. It was an economic asset. A society that could rally like this could move resources, trade goods, and innovate with unmatched efficiency. The pyramids built more than tombs, they built Egypt. The bottom line, a legacy beyond stone. So what's the big picture? The pyramids were economic engines mobilizing labor, sparking innovation, and redistributing wealth in ways that shaped ancient Egypt for centuries. They cost a fortune, grumbles about taxes, probably echoed through the villages, but they delivered two creating job skills and a national identity that stood as tall as the monuments themselves. Next time you marvel at those ancient stones, think of the hands that shaped them. The worker with his chisel, the farmer with his grain, the pharaoh with his dream. Together, they didn't just build pyramids, they built an economy that still captivates us today. This exploration dives deep into how pyramid building fueled ancient Egypt's economy and workforce, from the organized labor system to the ripple effects on trade, agriculture, and beyond. It's a story of stone and sweat, but also of ingenuity and unity, a testament to how a civilization turned monuments into a foundation for prosperity. Imagine standing at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, its colossal stone blocks rising into the sky like a monument to human ambition. For the ancient Egyptians, this was more than a breathtaking sight. It was a declaration of who they were. The pyramids were not just tombs for pharaohs. They were towering symbols of a civilization's ingenuity, faith, and unity. These structures shaped Egypt's cultural identity, instilling a pride that has echoed through millennia. Let's explore how the pyramids became the bedrock of Egypt's legacy and why they continue to inspire awe today. Architectural marvels engineering a legacy. The pyramids were feats of engineering that defied the limits of their time. The Great Pyramid, built for Pharaoh Khufu around 2630 BCE, stood at 146.6 meters, 481 feet, the tallest man-made structure in the world for over 4,000 years. Its base spans 13 acres, and its sides are aligned with the cardinal directions to within a fraction of a degree. Each of its 3 million limestone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, was quarried, transported, and placed with astonishing precision, all without modern machinery. This wasn't just construction. It was a showcase of Egypt's advanced skills. The ability to coordinate such a project, harnessing mathematics, astronomy, and logistics, spoke to a society that prided itself on its mastery of the world. For the Egyptians, the pyramids were proof of their greatness, a source of collective pride that set them apart from their neighbors. They weren't just building tombs, they were building a legacy in stone. Religious significance. Tombs of the divine. The pyramids were deeply tied to Egypt's spiritual beliefs, designed as eternal homes for pharaohs as living gods. Their sloping sides mimicked the sun's rays, guiding the ruler's soul to the afterlife. This reflected the Egyptians' obsession with immortality. Inside treasures, mummified bodies, and spells like the pyramid texts ensured the pharaoh's journey to the heavens, preserving divine order on earth. This fusion of architecture and faith shaped Egypt's cultural identity. The pyramids embodied the value placed on the afterlife, a belief that life's true purpose extended beyond death. Building these sacred monuments was an act of devotion, reinforcing the idea that Egypt was a land favored by the gods. For the people, this connection to the divine was a point of pride, a reminder of their unique place in the cosmos. Collective effort. a nation united building. A pyramid was no small task, it was a national endeavor. Far from the myth of enslaved masses, evidence shows that tens of thousands of skilled workers, artisans, and farmers contributed during the Nile's flood season. These laborers lived in organized villages, ate well, and received medical care, suggesting a society that valued its workforce. This collective effort forged a sense of unity. As historian John Romer writes, the pyramid was not built by slaves, but by a whole nation. Imagine the pride of a farmer hauling stone or an artisan carving a block knowing their work would stand forever. The pyramids became a shared achievement, strengthening the bonds of community and purpose. They were a testament to what Egyptians could accomplish together, a legacy of cooperation etched into the desert. Enduring legacy, timeless wonders. The pyramids have endured for over 4,500 years, outlasting empires and natural disasters. While other ancient wonders faded, these structures remain their silhouettes as striking today as they were in antiquity. This resilience has made them a powerful link between ancient and modern Egypt, a bridge across time that connects Egyptians to their ancestors. For modern Egyptians, the pyramids are a source of enduring pride. They draw millions of visitors, annually tourists, scholars, and adventurers, all captivated by their grandeur. This global fascination validates Egypt's historical significance, reminding its people of their ancestors' contributions to civilization. The pyramids aren't just ruins. They're living symbols of a past that refuses to fade. Cultural influence, icons of inspiration. Beyond their physical presence, the pyramids have shaped art and imagination for centuries. Ancient writers like Herodotus marveled at their scale, while poets like Shelley reflected on their impermanence in Ozymandias. In modern times, they've starred in films, paintings, and even video games, each depiction adding to their mystique. This cultural reach keeps Egypt's legacy alive. The pyramids have become shorthand for mystery and majesty, inspiring countless stories and images. For Egyptians, this artistic prominence is a point of pride, a sign that their heritage resonates worldwide. The pyramids aren't just history. They're a creative force that continues to captivate. National pride, a modern symbol. Today, the pyramids are woven into Egypt's national identity. They grace postcards, currency, and tourism ads, symbolizing the country's ancient glory. Events like the Giza Sound and Light Show, where the pyramids glow against the night sky, celebrate this heritage, drawing crowds to relive Egypt's past. Globally, the pyramids elevate Egypt's status. They're featured in exhibitions and documentaries showcasing the nation's foundational role in human history. For Egyptians, this recognition is a source of pride, a reminder that their country's story is one of enduring greatness. The pyramids aren't just relics, they're a rallying point for a modern nation, a legacy in stone. The pyramids are more than monuments, they're the heartbeat of Egypt's cultural identity. They reflect a civilization that excelled in engineering, revered its gods, and united its people in pursuit of eternity. From their construction to their lasting fame, they've inspired pride in Egyptians past and present. Standing before them, you feel it, the weight of a legacy that refuses to crumble, a testament to a people who built not just for their time, but for all time. Imagine gazing up at the Great Pyramid of Giza, its limestone casing long stripped away, yet its sheer scale still humbling. These pyramids, once the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian achievement, rose from the sands as testaments to power, faith, and ingenuity. But their construction didn't last forever. Over time, the tradition of building these colossal monuments faded, leaving us to ponder why such a defining practice ended and what legacy it bestowed upon the world. Let's journey through the forces that dimmed this architectural era and uncover the enduring echoes of the pyramids that still resonate today. The rise and peak, a civilization's ambition. Pyramid building flourished during Egypt's Old Kingdom c. 2686-218 BCE, a period of unparalleled stability and prosperity. Pharaohs like Djoser, whose step pyramid marked the dawn of this tradition, and Khufu, whose Great Pyramid redefined human possibility, harnessed the state's resources to craft these wonders. More than mere tombs, pyramids were cosmic bridges, slinking the pharaoh to the gods and ensuring his eternal reign. The Old Kingdom's centralized authority, bolstered by a thriving economy and a workforce of skilled laborers, made this golden age possible. Yet this era of grandeur was fleeting. By the close of the 6th dynasty, around 2181 BCE, the pyramids grew smaller and less frequent. The last true pyramid, built for Ahmose III, centuries later in the 18th dynasty, was a modest echo of its predecessors. What unraveled this monumental tradition? Political collapse, the fracturing of power. The decline of pyramid building began with the Old Kingdom's end, ushering in the First Intermediate Period, c. 2181-55 BCE. Egypt, once unified under a divine pharaoh, fragmented into competing regions. Local governors, known as nomarchs, rose in influence, eroding the central authority that had once orchestrated these massive projects. A pyramid wasn't just stone and sweat, it was a symbol of the king's dominion, requiring absolute control over labor, materials, and loyalty. Without a strong pharaoh to wield this power, the system crumbled. As historian Barbara Mertz observes, the pyramid was a reflection of the king's might, and when that might faltered, so did the pyramids. Regional leaders prioritized survival and local governance over national monuments, leaving the grand vision of the Old Kingdom behind. Economic exhaustion, the price of grandeur. The economic toll of pyramid building was staggering. The Great Pyramid alone demanded over 2 million limestone and granite blocks, quarried, hauled, and meticulously placed. This wasn't the work of enslaved masses, as myths suggest, but of tens of thousands of skilled workers, fed, housed, and organized by the state. The Nile's bounty sustained this effort, but even its abundance had limits. As the Old Kingdom waned, Egypt faced potential disruption, shifts in the Nile's flood patterns perhaps, or the strain of overexploited resources. Feeding a workforce while maintaining agricultural output became a balancing act the state could no longer manage. The cost, both financial and social, grew untenable. Tombs shrank in scale, reflecting a shift to practicality over extravagance. The pyramids, once a nation's pride, became an unaffordable luxury. Spiritual shifts, a new vision of eternity. Religion, too, played its part in this decline. In the Old Kingdom, the pharaoh's afterlife was paramount, his pyramid a divine ascent to the heavens. But by the Middle Kingdom, c. 2005-5165 BCE, beliefs evolved. The rise of the Osiris cult democratized the afterlife, offering resurrection and judgment to all, not just royalty. This shift lessened the need for monumental tombs as the sole path to immortality. The pyramid texts, once carved for pharaohs alone, gave way to the coffin texts, and later the Book of the Dead, spreading spiritual access to nobles and commoners. Burial practices turned inwardless, about visible splendor, more about personal piety. Later pharaohs abandoned pyramids for hidden tombs in the Valley of the Kings, designed to thwart thieves rather than proclaim glory. The age of ostentatious architecture yielded to a quieter, more introspective faith. The legacy unfolds, stone and beyond. Though pyramid building ceased its legacy stretched far beyond the sands of Egypt. The pyramids themselves endured their weathered forms, captivating travelers from antiquity to today. Herodotus, the Greek historian, marveled at their scale in the 5th century BCE, cementing their fame in the ancient world. Their engineering precise alignments to cardinal points, logistical mastery, and sheer durability set a standard that rippled through history, influencing architecture across cultures. Culturally, the pyramids became Egypt's signature. They embody a civilization that dared to defy time, merging ambition with artistry. In poetry like Shelley's Ozymandias, they whisper of lost empires. In film and fiction, they spark wonder and mystery. For Egyptians, they're a source of identity and pride, a link to a past that still defines them. A modern echo, tourism and inspiration. Today, the pyramids fuel Egypt's economy, drawing millions of visitors yearly. Giza's plateau buzzes with tourists, their presence sustaining jobs and preserving heritage. Beyond economics, the pyramids inspire artists, engineers, and dreamers see in them the heights of human potential. They've birthed myths, from hidden chambers to alien builders, each tale a nod to their enigmatic pull. Reflecting on the stones, why did pyramid building fade? It was no single blow, but a confluence of change. Political unity shattered economic resources, dwindled, and spiritual priorities shifted. Yet what it left behind transcends its decline. The pyramids stand as more than relics, they're monuments to human will, to a people who built not just for their time, but for all time. As you trace their edges against the sky, you feel the weight of their story, a rise, a fall, and a legacy that refuses to fade. Imagine standing before the pyramids of Egypt, their colossal forms rising from the desert sands like silent guardians of a lost world. For millennia, these ancient wonders kept their secrets locked away, their purpose and construction shrouded in mystery. But from the 18th century onward, a parade of explorers, scholars, and scientists, driven by curiosity, ambition, and cutting-edge tools, began to peel back the layers of time. This is the story of the modern rediscovery of the pyramids, a journey through dusty expeditions, groundbreaking discoveries, and technological marvels that continue to captivate us today. The Enlightenment ignites a spark, Napoleon's expedition. The modern quest to uncover the pyramid's secrets kicked off in 1798, when Napoleon Bonaparte swept into Egypt with more than just military might. Alongside his army marched a team of scholars, the savants, armed with notebooks, pencils, and a mission to document Egypt's ancient treasures. These intellectuals turned their gaze to the pyramids, sketching their outlines, measuring their stones, and recording every detail they could. Their efforts gave birth to the Description d'Egypte, a sprawling collection of volumes that hit Europe like a thunderbolt. Suddenly, the pyramids weren't just distant relics, they were puzzles begging to be solved. This expedition didn't just conquer land. It conquered imaginations, sparking a wave of Egyptomania and laying the foundation for modern Egyptology. Brute force and bold discoveries, Giovanni Belzoni. The early 19th century brought a different kind of explorer to the pyramids. Giovanni Belzoni, a towering Italian with a past as a circus strongman, Belzoni traded the big top for the desert, arriving in Egypt with a thirst for adventure. In 1818, he made headlines by blasting his way into the Pyramid of Khafre with gunpowder, a method that horrifies modern archaeologists but thrilled his contemporaries. Inside, he uncovered a burial chamber, its walls whispering tales of the past through faint inscriptions. Belzoni's approach was rough and reckless, often more destructive than delicate, but his fine sarcophagus carvings and hidden spaces added vivid strokes to the emerging picture of the pyramids. He wasn't a scientist, but his larger-than-life exploits made Egypt's wonders a public sensation, a golden breakthrough. Howard Carter and Tutankhamun. Fast forward to 1922, when Howard Carter struck gold literally in the Valley of the Kings. His discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, a dazzling trove of treasures untouched by time, wasn't inside a pyramid, but it reshaped our understanding of ancient Egyptian burial practices. The resting place brimmed with gold masks, chariots and jewels hinting at the riches that might once have filled the pyramids before looters stripped them bare. Carter's painstaking work, backed by the wealthy Lord Carnarvon, showed the world what patience and precision could achieve. His find wasn't just a treasure haul, it was a window into the rituals and reverence that surrounded Egypt's rulers, offering clues to the pyramid's original splendor. Science takes the stage. Flinders Petrie's revolution, while Belzoni smashed and Carter dazzled Flinders. Petrie brought a quieter revolution to the pyramids. Known as the father of modern archaeology, Petrie arrived at Giza in the late 19th century with a new creed: meticulousness. He didn't just dig for treasure. He sifted through the mundane pottery shards, workers' tools, even the layout of their villages. His excavations revealed that the pyramids weren't built by faceless slaves, but by skilled laborers who lived in organized communities nearby. Petrie's careful measurements and detailed records turned archaeology into a science grounding the pyramid story in human lives rather than myth. His work proved that every fragment, no matter how small, held a piece of the puzzle. Technology unveils the invisible modern marvels. By the 20th and 21st centuries, the tools of exploration had evolved beyond picks and shovels. Enter the age of non-invasive discovery, ground-penetrating radar, 3D laser scanning, and moon radiography using cosmic rays to detect hidden voids. These innovations let researchers peer inside the pyramids without disturbing a single stone. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project stunned the world by uncovering a massive, mysterious void inside the Great Pyramid, a space as large as a small airplane hangar. What's it for? No one knows yet, but the discovery highlights how technology keeps rewriting the pyramid story. These methods map internal chambers and passageways with precision, revealing secrets that eluded explorers for centuries, all without a chisel in sight. Mysteries that endure. Questions without answers. For all our progress, the pyramids still taunt us with unanswered questions. What's the deal with the air shafts in the Great Pyramid? Were they for airflow? Or did they align with stars to guide the pharaoh's soul? How did the Egyptians haul 80-ton stones into place ramps? Rollers are something we've yet to imagine. These enigmas fuel endless debates, from scholarly papers to wild theories of lost technologies. Each breakthrough, like the hidden void, only deepens the intrigue. The pyramids don't yield their secrets easily, and that stubborn mystery is part of their enduring allure, keeping explorers, scientists, and dreamers coming back for more. A fragile legacy protecting the pyramids. But the pyramids face a modern foe: us. Tourism floods Giza with millions of visitors each year, their footsteps and breath wearing on ancient stone. Pollution from nearby Cairo and sprawling urban growth creep closer, threatening these timeless giants. Conservation has become a race against time, with UNESCO and the Egyptian government leading the charge. Efforts range from stabilizing crumbling blocks to cleaning the Sphinx, all while balancing access with preservation. The pyramids have stood for over 400–500 years, but their survival hinges on our ability to shield them from the very curiosity that drives their rediscovery. It's a delicate dance, honoring the past while securing its future. The eternal pull of the pyramids. The modern rediscovery of the pyramids is a tapestry woven from daring science and wonder. From Napoleon's savants scribbling in the desert to today's researchers wielding cosmic rays, each era has left its mark. These explorers, whether swinging dynamite or scanning with laser shave, uncovered not just stones, but stories of king's workers and a civilization that defied time. Yet the pyramids remain tantalizingly incomplete, their full truth still buried in the sand. That's their power. They don't just stand there, they beckon. As you gaze up at their weathered peaks, you feel it, the thrill of the unknown, the echo of the past, and the promise of secrets still waiting to be found. Imagine standing before the Great Pyramid of Giza, its towering limestone blocks rising from the desert like a monument to eternity. Each stone, some weighing as much as 80 tons, fits together with a precision that defies explanation. As the sun sets, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold, the air hums with the weight of 4,500 years of history and the echoes of questions that remain unanswered. The pyramids of Egypt are more than ancient relics. They are enigmas that have puzzled humanity for millennia, their secrets locked within stone, teasing us with possibilities just beyond our grasp. What keeps these structures so endlessly fascinating? Is it the mystery of how they were built, the uncertainty of their true purpose, or the promise of hidden chambers yet to be explored? In this section, we'll delve into the enduring mysteries of the pyramids, those tantalizing unknowns that continue to draw scholars, explorers, and dreamers to their shadowed slopes. The enigma of construction. How were they built? Few questions about the pyramids are as perplexing as how they were constructed. The Great Pyramid. The largest of them all is made up of over 2.3 million blocks, averaging 2.5 tons each, with some granite slabs in the King's Chamber reaching a staggering 80 tons. These stones were quarried, transported, and placed with such accuracy that a razor blade can't slip between them. How did a civilization armed only with copper tools and human labor achieve this? The leading theory suggests ramps straight zigzagging or spiraling around the pyramid were used to haul stones into place with sledges and rollers. Yet this idea raises doubts. A straight ramp would need to stretch over a mile to maintain a manageable slope, requiring immense resources to build. Some propose internal ramps, a theory bolstered by French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin, who in 2008 pointed to microgravity anomalies hinting at such a structure within the Great Pyramid. Others speculate that water systems floated the stones, though evidence remains scarce. Then there's the pyramid's alignment oriented to the cardinal points with an error of less than 0.05 degrees. Without compasses or GPS, how did the Egyptians manage this? Some suggest they tracked the stars, while others point to basic tools like plumb bobs. The answer eludes us, leaving the construction process a marvel wrapped in mystery. Beyond tombs, what were they really? For the prevailing view is that the pyramids were tombs for pharaohs built to house their bodies and treasures for the afterlife. But this explanation doesn't silence all questions. The Great Pyramid's sarcophagus was empty when discovered, and no mummy has ever been found within its walls. Was Khufu, its supposed occupant, ever buried there? Or does its purpose stretch beyond a tomb? Some propose the pyramids doubled as astronomical observatories. The Great Pyramid's shafts align with stars like Orion's belt and Sirius sacred in Egyptian mythology. Could these have guided priests in tracking celestial events linking the pharaoh's soul to the cosmos. Scholars see this as a secondary role, not the primary intent, but it fuels debate. Wilder theories abound. Some claim the pyramids were power plants, harnessing unknown energy, while others attribute their creation to lost civilizations or extraterrestrials. These ideas, though lacking evidence, persist because the pyramid's feats seem almost too grand for human hands alone. The absence of definitive answers keeps their purpose a riddle, inviting us to wonder what else they might have been. Hidden chambers and unexplored voids. Step inside a pyramid, and you enter a maze of chambers and corridors, some mapped, others still concealed. The Great Pyramid boasts the kings, chamber queens, chamber and grand gallery, each a marvel of design. Yet what lies beyond these known spaces? In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project used muon radiography, detecting cosmic rays, to uncover a void above the grand gallery as large as a small airplane. Is it a structural quirk, a construction leftover, or an undiscovered chamber holding ancient secrets? No one knows, and reaching it without harming the pyramid poses a daunting challenge. The Pyramid of Khafre offers its own enigmas. Explorer Giovanni Belzoni blasted into it in 1818, finding an empty burial chamber, but whispers of hidden passages endure. Modern tools, like ground-penetrating radar, hint at anomalies below, yet exploration lags. These uncharted spaces are like locked vaults, their contents a mystery until technology or courage unlocks them. Symbols of the cosmos decoding the pyramids, meaning the pyramids are more than stone. They're symbols drenched in cultural and religious significance. Their shape evokes the Benben stone, a mythic emblem of creation, its sloping sides perhaps mimicking the sun's rays lifting the pharaoh to the heavens. Their alignment with Orion's belt, tied to Osiris, god of the afterlife, suggests a cosmic blueprint. Was this deliberate a bridge between earth and sky? The pyramid texts carved in later pyramids offer spells for the pharaoh's journey through the underworld. But what rituals animated the Giza pyramids? Construction or consecration? How did ordinary Egyptians perceive these giants looming over their lives? The answers are shadows faint. Outlines of a belief system we're still piecing together. Lost knowledge, the secrets we may never recover. Perhaps the most haunting mystery is what we've lost. The Egyptians wielded advanced mathematics, engineering, and astronomy skills evident in the pyramids, precise proportions, and stellar alignments. How did they calculate these feats? What methods moved those colossal stones? Some of their knowledge seems to outstrip their era, hinting at techniques or insights since vanished. Could they have inherited wisdom from an earlier forgotten culture? While speculative, this idea underscores a truth. The pyramids embody a mastery we can't fully replicate or explain. They stand as silent tutors, their lessons etched in limestone, daring us to rediscover what time has erased. The pyramids of Egypt transcend their roles as tombs or wonders. They are living mysteries, challenging our grasp of the past and our place in the universe. From the riddle of their construction to the allure of their hidden depths, they beckon us to explore, question, and marvel. As new tools peel back their layers, we edge closer to answers, yet the pyramids remind us that some secrets may forever elude us. And in that elusiveness lies their timeless magic. As the echoes of ancient mysteries soften into the night, you find yourself standing beneath a vast canopy of stars, each one a quiet guardian of time's endless flow. The pyramids, those steadfast watchers, rise in the distance, their edges blurred by the tender glow of moonlight. Now, Let the burdens of the day slip away from you like fine sand sifting through an hourglass, each grain a fleeting thought carried off by a whispering breeze. Picture a tranquil oasis stretching before you, where the faint rustle of palm leaves blends with the distant murmur of a stream wrapping you in a delicate embrace of peace. The air feels cool and light kissed by the subtle fragrance of desert blooms and the calming scent of earth settling after the sun's warm touch. As you breathe in this quiet beauty, let your thoughts slow your mind, easing into a stillness that welcomes the gentle pull of sleep. You are safe here, cradled in this moment, surrounded by the timeless grace of the desert night. Your bed, soft and welcoming, waits to hold you in its comforting warmth. The pyramids, their secrets tucked away, remind you that some wonders are meant to linger unsolved, inviting you to release them for now. And so, with the stars twinkling faintly above and the wind's soft sigh brushing past, you can close your eyes, trusting that tomorrow will unfold with new marvels to greet you. For now, let yourself drift, guided by the steady rhythm of your breath, into a deep and peaceful slumber.